The rain hammered against the windows of the military briefing room as Commander Sarah Mitchell stood before a map covered in red pins. Each pin represented a failed mission, a lost operative, or a target that had slipped through their fingers like smoke. For 6 months, an unknown sniper had been systematically eliminating high-value targets across 3 different war zones, leaving no trace except for impossible shots that defied every rule of engagement. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock. It was past midnight, but sleep remained elusive when ghosts haunted the battlefield. The mysterious sniper had earned the code name Ghost among intelligence circles, and every military branch wanted to know who was behind the legendary marksmanship. The shots were too perfect, too precise, and too impossible for any ordinary soldier. The door burst open, and Lieutenant James Rodriguez rushed in, his uniform still damp from the storm outside. "Commander, we have a situation. The ghost struck again, but this time we have something." Sarah straightened, her pulse quickening. "What kind of something?" "A witness." Navy SEAL Team Alpha was conducting reconnaissance near the Afghan border when they observed the shot. Sergeant David Thompson was positioned 300 meters from the target location when it happened. The commander felt a surge of hope mixed with skepticism. "And Thompson is certain about what he saw?" "Ma'am, Thompson has been a sniper for 8 years. He knows impossible when he sees it." The target was General Hassan, the arms dealer we've been tracking for months. Hassan was moving through a convoy of 6 armored vehicles, switching between them randomly every few minutes. Sarah nodded grimly. General Hassan was paranoid about assassination attempts, never staying in one vehicle for more than 5 minutes. His security team had studied every possible sniper position within a 2-mile radius and posted guards accordingly. The man was practically untouchable. "How did the ghost manage it?" Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. Rodriguez pulled out a tablet and showed her grainy surveillance footage. Hassan's convoy was moving through a narrow mountain pass. The only clear line of sight would have been from a peak nearly 2 miles away. Thompson was watching through his scope when the shot happened. The footage showed the convoy winding through rocky terrain. Suddenly, the 3rd vehicle in line erupted in flames as a single bullet found its mark through the passenger window. The precision was breathtaking and terrifying. 2 miles, Sarah whispered. "That's beyond the range of any standard military rifle. The bullet drop alone would make such a shot mathematically impossible." "That's what Thompson said, ma'am, but he swears he saw the muzzle flash from the distant peak. More importantly, he caught something else in his scope right before the shot." Rodriguez swiped to enhance a section of the footage. Through the grainy image, Sarah could make out a figure prone on the distant mountaintop. The silhouette was small and appeared to be wearing standard military gear, but something seemed different about the body positioning. Thompson noticed the shooter's stance was unusual. The way they held the rifle, the positioning of their legs, even the angle of their head. He's worked with hundreds of snipers, and something about this one stood out. Sarah studied the image more carefully. The figure was barely visible, even with enhancement. But there was something graceful about the positioning. Most male snipers had a certain bulk and rigidity to their stance, born from years of military training and physical conditioning. "What's Thompson's assessment?" she asked. "He believes the ghost might be a woman." The words hung in the air like a challenge to everything they thought they knew. Female snipers were rare in most military forces, though not unheard of. But a woman capable of impossible shots across multiple theaters of war? That would rewrite the intelligence files on 6 ongoing operations. Sarah walked to the window and stared out at the storm. Lightning illuminated the base in stark flashes, and she found herself thinking about legends and myths. Every war produced stories of supernatural marksmen, soldiers who seemed to bend the laws of physics with their shots. Most were exaggerations born from fear and desperation, but the ghost was different. The evidence was mounting with each impossible kill, each target eliminated under circumstances that should have made success unthinkable. If Thompson was right about the shooter being a woman, it raised even more questions about training, background, and motivation. "I want to speak with Thompson personally," Sarah decided. "Set up a secure video call for 0600 hours. "And Rodriguez?" "Yes, ma'am. Pull every file we have on female snipers from the past decade. Active duty, discharged, missing in action, everything. If the ghost is who Thompson thinks she is, she didn't learn those skills overnight." Rodriguez nodded and gathered his materials. "Should I notify the other intelligence agencies about this development?" Sarah considered the question carefully. The ghost had become a priority target for multiple government branches, each claiming jurisdiction over the investigation. Sharing information meant risking leaks, but keeping secrets might mean missing crucial connections. Not yet. Let me talk to Thompson first. If his assessment is accurate, we need to understand what we're dealing with before we alert the entire intelligence community. After Rodriguez left, Sarah remained at the window, watching the storm rage across the military base. Somewhere out there, the ghost was planning the next impossible shot. The sniper had remained one step ahead of every military force trying to track them down, appearing and disappearing like morning mist. But now, they had their first real lead. Thompson's observation might be the key to unraveling the mystery that had consumed Sarah's attention for months. If the ghost was indeed a woman, it narrowed the field of possible suspects significantly. Sarah pulled up the classified database on her computer and began searching through personnel files. Female snipers, discharged soldiers, missing persons reports, anyone with the skills necessary to make shots that defied physics. The list was shorter than she expected, but each name represented a potential answer to the question that had been haunting military intelligence. As dawn approached, Sarah found herself staring at a particular file that made her blood run cold. The photograph showed a young woman in military dress uniform, her eyes sharp and focused. The accompanying report detailed exceptional marksmanship scores and a mysterious disappearance during a classified mission 3 years ago. The woman's name was Lieutenant Elena Vasquez, and according to her file, she was officially listed as killed in action. But Sarah had learned to distrust official reports when dealing with the impossible. Sergeant David Thompson adjusted his headset as the secure video call connected him to Commander Mitchell's office. The young Navy SEAL had been through dozens of debriefings, but something about this conversation felt different. The weight of what he had witnessed in Afghanistan still pressed against his chest like a physical burden. "Sergeant Thompson, thank you for making time for this call." Commander Mitchell's voice came through clearly despite the satellite delay. "I need you to walk me through exactly what you observed during the Hassan operation." David nodded, his weathered face serious in the dim light of the forward operating base communications room. At 28, he had already completed 4 tours of duty and earned a reputation as one of the most reliable snipers in his unit. His word carried weight among his peers and superiors alike. "Ma'am, my team was positioned on overwatch approximately 300 meters southeast of the convoy route. We had clear visibility of the mountain pass where General Hassan's vehicles would travel. Intelligence indicated he would be switching between vehicles every few minutes as a security precaution." The commander leaned forward in her chair, studying Thompson's face through the video feed. "What was your primary objective during this operation?" "Reconnaissance and target confirmation, ma'am. We were not authorized for engagement. Our job was to verify Hassan's presence and track his movement patterns for future operations." David paused, remembering the weight of his rifle scope as he tracked the convoy through the winding mountain path. The 6 armored vehicles had moved with military precision, their spacing calculated to prevent simultaneous attacks on multiple targets. At approximately 14:30 local time, I observed Hassan exit the second vehicle and move to the third. This was consistent with his established pattern of never remaining in one location for more than 5 minutes. Commander Mitchell made notes on her tablet. "And where was your attention focused when the shot occurred?" "I was tracking Hassan through my scope, ma'am. The third vehicle had tinted windows, but I could make out his silhouette in the rear passenger seat. He was reviewing documents with 2 other individuals, likely his security detail." The memory of what happened next still made David's hands tremble slightly. In 8 years of military service, he had never witnessed anything that challenged his understanding of ballistics and marksmanship, like what occurred in that mountain pass. "The shot came from the northwest, ma'am. I immediately swept my scope toward the source and identified a muzzle flash from a peak approximately 2 miles away. The bullet traveled through what should have been impossible atmospheric conditions and found its target with perfect precision." David's voice carried a mix of professional admiration and genuine confusion. The laws of physics should have made such a shot impossible, yet he had witnessed it with his own eyes. "Describe the atmospheric conditions, Sergeant." "High wind speeds, ma'am, probably 25 to 30 miles per hour with irregular gusts. The temperature differential between the valley floor and the mountain peak would have created significant air density variations. Any sniper making that shot would need to calculate for bullet drop, wind drift, and atmospheric pressure changes. Commander Mitchell nodded thoughtfully. And you believe you observed the shooter? Yes, ma'am. For approximately 3 seconds after the muzzle flash, I maintained visual contact with a prone figure on the distant peak. The shooter appeared to be using a bipod and what looked like a custom rifle configuration. David hesitated, knowing that his next words would sound unusual in a military report. Ma'am, there was something different about this sniper's positioning and body mechanics. Different how? The stance was more compact than what I typically observe in male snipers. The leg positioning, the way the shooter's body curved around the rifle, even the head angle seemed more fluid, less rigid than standard military training produces. Commander Mitchell felt her pulse quicken. Are you suggesting the sniper was female? I cannot confirm that definitively, ma'am, but my experience tells me this shooter had different physical characteristics than the male snipers I've worked with. The body positioning suggested someone smaller in stature, but with exceptional training and equipment. The silence stretched between them as Commander Mitchell processed this information. David could see her weighing the implications of his assessment against the broader intelligence picture. Sergeant, in your professional opinion, what level of training would be required to make such a shot? David considered the question carefully. Ma'am, the shot I witnessed exceeded the capabilities of standard military sniper training. The distance, environmental conditions, and target selection suggested someone with advanced ballistics knowledge and access to specialized equipment. Could this have been a lucky shot? Negative, ma'am. The precision was too perfect, and intelligence reports indicate the Ghost has made similar impossible shots across multiple theaters. This represents a pattern of exceptional skill rather than fortunate timing. Commander Mitchell pulled up Elena Vasquez's file on her screen. Sergeant, I'm going to show you a photograph. I need you to tell me if this individual could match the physical characteristics you observed. The image of Lieutenant Elena Vasquez appeared on David's screen. Her military bearing was evident even in the formal portrait, but her frame was indeed more compact than most male soldiers. Her eyes held an intensity that spoke of exceptional focus and determination. David studied the photograph for several long moments. Ma'am, the body type and positioning would be consistent with what I observed. However, I must emphasize that the distance and brief observation window make definitive identification impossible. Understood, Sergeant. What happened after you observed the shooter? The figure disappeared immediately after the shot, ma'am. By the time I could adjust my scope for a clearer view, the position was empty. The extraction was as professional as the shot itself. Commander Mitchell made additional notes, her mind racing through the implications. If Elena Vasquez was alive and operating as the Ghost, it meant their intelligence had been fundamentally wrong for 3 years. It also raised questions about how a supposedly dead soldier had acquired the resources and training necessary for such operations. Sergeant Thompson, this conversation is classified at the highest levels. You are not to discuss these observations with anyone outside of official channels. Understood, ma'am. One final question. If you encountered this sniper again, would you recognize them? David considered the question seriously. Ma'am, if I observed similar shooting techniques and body positioning, I believe I could identify consistent patterns. The Ghost has a distinctive signature that sets them apart from conventional military snipers. After the call ended, Commander Mitchell sat alone in her office, staring at Elena Vasquez's file. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to form a picture that challenged everything the military intelligence community believed about the Ghost. A supposedly dead female lieutenant was systematically eliminating high-value targets using impossible shots that redefined the limits of long-range marksmanship. But who was Elena Vasquez really, and how had she acquired the skills and resources necessary to operate as the most feared sniper in 3 active war zones? The answers to those questions would require digging into classified files that officially didn't exist. Elena Vasquez had never intended to become a Ghost. 3 years ago, she was Lieutenant Elena Vasquez, a decorated sniper with the 75th Ranger Regiment, known for her exceptional marksmanship and unwavering dedication to her team. Her military record showed consistent excellence, multiple commendations, and the respect of every soldier who served alongside her. The transformation from respected officer to legendary phantom began during Operation Silent Thunder, a classified mission deep in the mountains of Syria. Elena's team had been tasked with eliminating a high-value target, who was coordinating arms shipments to terrorist organizations across the region. The mission should have been straightforward for a soldier of her caliber, but intelligence, failures, and political complications turned the operation into a nightmare that would haunt Elena for the rest of her life. Her team of 6 Rangers had infiltrated enemy territory under cover of darkness, establishing overwatch positions around the target compound. Elena had taken position on a ridge 800 meters from the primary building, her rifle scope trained on the windows where their target was supposed to appear. The betrayal came from within their own command structure. Someone with access to classified mission details had sold the information to enemy forces, turning Elena's team into sitting targets in a carefully orchestrated ambush. The attack began with mortar fire that shattered the night silence and sent deadly fragments raining down on the American positions. Elena watched in horror through her scope as her teammates fought desperately against overwhelming odds. Sergeant Mike Chen, who had shared pictures of his newborn daughter just hours before the mission, took a direct hit from a rocket-propelled grenade. Corporal Sarah Williams, who had been planning her wedding when the deployment began, disappeared in an explosion that left nothing but smoke and debris. The radio crackled with desperate calls for extraction, but no support arrived. Elena realized they had been abandoned, left to die in a foreign mountain range while politicians and bureaucrats covered their tracks back home. The young lieutenant faced an impossible choice: reveal her position to help her dying teammates or remain hidden and watch them be systematically executed. Elena chose to fight. Her rifle spoke with deadly precision as she engaged enemy positions from her concealed location. One by one, she eliminated the attackers who threatened her team, but there were too many and they kept coming. Each shot revealed her position further, drawing more fire toward her hiding spot among the rocks. The final betrayal came when an American drone appeared overhead. Elena initially felt relief, believing that extraction or close air support had finally arrived. Instead, the drone launched a missile directly at her position. Her own military was trying to eliminate her to tie up loose ends from the failed operation. Elena survived only because years of training had taught her to always have an escape route. She rolled away from her position seconds before the explosion, tumbling down the rocky slope as shrapnel whistled overhead. The blast that was meant to kill her instead provided cover for her desperate escape through enemy territory. For 3 days, Elena moved through hostile mountains with limited ammunition and no communication equipment. She had been declared killed in action, her family notified of her heroic sacrifice for national security. Officially, Lieutenant Elena Vasquez no longer existed. The woman who emerged from those mountains was different from the soldier who had entered them. Elena had lost her faith in military hierarchy, government promises, and the notion that following orders always led to honorable outcomes. She had witnessed the worst of human nature among the people she had sworn to serve. But Elena's skills remained sharp, and her sense of justice burned brighter than ever. If the system would not protect innocent people from dangerous criminals, she would do it herself. The ghost was born from the ashes of a betrayed soldier's idealism, transformed into something more dangerous and unpredictable than any official military operation. Elena spent months learning to operate outside official channels. She studied her targets carefully, focusing on individuals whose elimination would genuinely make the world safer: arms dealers, terrorist coordinators, war criminals who had escaped justice through political connections or legal technicalities. The ghost became judge, jury, and executioner for people the system could not or would not touch. Her first target had been Colonel Viktor Petrov, a Russian arms dealer who was supplying weapons to the same terrorist groups that had killed Elena's team. Petrov believed himself untouchable, surrounded by layers of security and political protection. Elena's bullet found him through the window of his armored limousine during a convoy movement that was supposed to be secret. The impossible shot that eliminated Petrov established the ghost's reputation among intelligence communities worldwide. The precision, timing, and circumstances defied conventional understanding of sniper capabilities. Elena had used custom ammunition and modified equipment acquired through black market contacts, developed during her time in the mountains. Each subsequent target reinforced the legend. General Hassan had been coordinating arms shipments that fueled conflicts across 3 countries. His elimination disrupted supply chains that had been feeding violence for months. Elena's bullet had been an instrument of justice that official channels could never deliver, but the ghost's activities came with a price. Elena lived in constant isolation, never staying in one location for more than a few days. She had no permanent base, no support network, and no backup if operations went wrong. The loneliness was perhaps more dangerous than any enemy sniper hunting her. Elena survived by staying ahead of every military force trying to track her movements. She studied their tactics, monitored their communications, and always planned 3 escape routes from every position. The skills that had made her an exceptional soldier now served to keep her alive as the world's most wanted sniper. Money came from anonymous benefactors who appreciated the ghost's work. Elena never knew their identities, receiving payment through untraceable cryptocurrency transfers to accounts she monitored from internet cafes across 3 continents. The funding allowed her to acquire specialized equipment and maintain the mobility necessary for her operations. But Elena knew her luck could not last forever. Every impossible shot increased the attention focused on her activities. Military intelligence agencies were dedicating significant resources to identifying and eliminating the ghost. Sergeant Thompson's observation in Afghanistan meant they were getting closer to the truth. Elena cleaned her rifle carefully in the abandoned building where she had taken shelter after the Hassan operation. The custom weapon represented 3 years of modifications and improvements, each adjustment designed to extend her capabilities beyond normal limits. The rifle was both her most valuable tool and her most dangerous liability. Through the cracked window, Elena could see the lights of a distant city where people lived normal lives with families, careers, and futures. She sometimes wondered what her life might have been if Operation Silent Thunder had succeeded, if betrayal had not transformed her from a decorated soldier into a hunted ghost. But regret was a luxury Elena could not afford. Tomorrow would bring another target, another impossible shot, and another step deeper into the shadows where the ghost lived. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood before a wall covered with photographs, documents, and red string connecting various pieces of evidence. The investigation into the ghost had consumed her life for the past week, and each new discovery only deepened the mystery surrounding Elena Vasquez and her transformation from decorated soldier to legendary sniper. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. Master Sergeant Robert Hayes, a veteran weapons specialist with 30 years of military service, had contacted Sarah after hearing rumors about the investigation. Hayes had worked with Elena during her early training and remembered details that had been overlooked in official files. "Commander, you need to understand that Elena wasn't just an exceptional sniper," Hayes explained during their secure video conference. "She was a student of ballistics in ways that went far beyond standard military training. The girl would spend hours studying wind patterns, atmospheric pressure changes, and bullet trajectory calculations that most snipers never even consider." Sarah leaned forward, intrigued by this new perspective on Elena's capabilities. "Can you elaborate on her unconventional training methods?" Elena would set up practice ranges in conditions that other soldiers considered impossible. She'd shoot during thunderstorms at extreme distances, and in wind conditions that would make most marksmen pack up their equipment. She was obsessed with pushing the boundaries of what was considered achievable. Hayes pulled up photographs from Elena's training records, showing her prone behind various rifles on different ranges. Even in the static images, her focus and determination were evident in every line of her body position. More importantly, Elena had connections with civilians who specialized in custom ammunition and experimental ballistics. She spent her leave time working with gunsmiths and ammunition designers who were developing rounds for extreme long-range shooting competitions. This information sent Sarah's investigation in a new direction. If Elena had access to experimental ammunition and custom equipment, it could explain the impossible shots that had baffled military analysts for months. The ghost wasn't just using superior training. She was employing technology that existed outside normal military supply chains. Sarah contacted Dr. Marcus Webb, a ballistics expert who consulted for various government agencies. Webb's analysis of the Hassan shooting had concluded that standard military ammunition could not achieve the observed results under the documented conditions. "Commander Mitchell, I've been studying the trajectory data from the ghost's confirmed kills," Dr. Webb explained during their meeting at a secure facility outside Washington. "The bullet performance indicates rounds that have been modified or manufactured specifically for extreme long-range accuracy." Webb pulled up complex mathematical models on his computer screen, showing bullet paths, wind drift calculations, and atmospheric pressure variables. The data painted a picture of shots that required not just exceptional skill, but ammunition that performed beyond standard specifications. These bullets would need to maintain stable flight characteristics at distances where normal rounds would tumble or lose accuracy. We're talking about custom-manufactured projectiles with specialized ballistic coefficients. Sarah studied the data, her military mind processing the implications. Could such ammunition be acquired through normal channels? Absolutely not. This level of customization requires specialized equipment and expertise that exists only in a few private facilities worldwide. Someone would need significant funding and connections to acquire rounds of this quality. The investigation expanded to include financial tracking specialists, who began following money trails associated with Elena's activities. Agent Lisa Park, a forensic accountant with experience in international banking, discovered a network of cryptocurrency transactions that painted a disturbing picture. Commander, the financial pattern suggests the Ghost has been receiving substantial funding from multiple sources, Agent Park reported during a classified briefing. The payments are routed through shell companies and digital currency exchanges that make tracing extremely difficult. Sarah examined the financial flow charts that Park had prepared. The numbers represented millions of dollars moving through accounts linked to the Ghost's activities. This wasn't the work of a lone soldier seeking revenge. It was a sophisticated operation with significant backing. Who has the resources and motivation to fund operations like this? Sarah asked. That's where it gets complicated, ma'am. The funding sources appear to include private military contractors, international security firms, and possibly foreign intelligence agencies. Someone with serious money wants the Ghost to continue operating. The revelation transformed Sarah's understanding of the threat they were facing. Elena Vasquez wasn't just a rogue soldier. She was the operational arm of a larger organization that valued her unique capabilities. The impossible shots weren't just personal vendetta. They were contract killings carried out with precision that no other sniper could match. Further investigation revealed that several of the Ghost's targets had been connected to arms dealing networks that competed with other criminal organizations. Elena's bullets weren't just eliminating dangerous criminals. They were removing obstacles for someone else's illegal activities. Colonel James Morrison, Sarah's commanding officer, reviewed the evidence with growing concern. Mitchell, you're suggesting that the Ghost is working for a criminal organization that's using her skills to eliminate their competition? Sir, the evidence indicates that Elena Vasquez has become an asset for someone with significant resources and intelligence capabilities. Her targets aren't random. They're strategically selected to benefit whoever is paying for her services. Morrison paced behind his desk, the weight of command evident in his weathered features. If that's true, then stopping the Ghost becomes a much more complicated mission. We're not just hunting a rogue soldier. We're confronting an organization that has weaponized one of our own. Sarah nodded grimly. There's something else, sir. The psychological profile suggests that Elena may not fully understand how she's being manipulated. Her military background and sense of justice make her susceptible to handlers who frame these missions as patriotic duties. The investigation team assembled additional evidence over the following days. Intercepted communications suggested that Elena received mission briefings through encrypted channels that provided detailed intelligence about her targets. Someone was feeding her information that made each impossible shot achievable. Dr. Rachel Stone, a military psychologist, analyzed Elena's probable mental state based on her known history and current activities. Commander, Lieutenant Vasquez experienced severe trauma during Operation Silent Thunder. The betrayal she suffered would have created deep trust issues and a strong need to maintain control over her environment. Dr. Stone's assessment painted a picture of a soldier who had been psychologically primed for manipulation by handlers who understood her vulnerabilities. Elena's need for justice and purpose made her the perfect weapon for organizations that could frame their criminal activities as righteous missions. She genuinely believes she's making the world safer, Dr. Stone continued. The handlers have convinced her that her targets represent genuine threats to innocent people. Elena sees herself as a protector rather than an assassin. Sarah realized that capturing Elena would require more than superior tactics or firepower. They needed to break through years of psychological conditioning. and show her the truth about who was really controlling her missions. The ghost had to be convinced that her handlers were the real enemy. But time was running out. Intelligence indicated that Elena was already moving toward her next target, another impossible shot that would further cement her legend while advancing someone else's criminal agenda. Sarah had to find a way to reach the woman behind the ghost before another target fell to her rifle. The abandoned warehouse in Romania felt like a tomb, as Elena Vasquez prepared for what her handlers had described as the most important mission of her career. The target was supposedly a weapons manufacturer who was supplying chemical weapons to terrorist organizations across Eastern Europe. According to the encrypted briefing, eliminating this target would save thousands of innocent lives. Elena methodically assembled her custom rifle, each component fitting together with the precision of a finely crafted instrument. 3 years of modifications had transformed the weapon into something that could achieve shots other snipers considered impossible. The specialized ammunition that would make tonight's mission successful lay arranged in neat rows beside her equipment case. But something felt different about this operation. The intelligence package had been more detailed than usual, almost too precise in its description of the target's movements and security arrangements. Elena had learned to trust her instincts during her time as a ghost, and those instincts were whispering warnings she couldn't ignore. 2 miles away, Commander Sarah Mitchell crouched behind a concrete barrier, watching the warehouse through high-powered binoculars. Her team had been tracking Elena's movements for 72 hours, following digital breadcrumbs and communication intercepts that led to this moment. The trap had been carefully set, but Sarah knew they were dealing with someone whose survival instincts had been honed by years of living in the shadows. "Alpha Team is in position," came the whispered report through Sarah's earpiece. "No movement detected at the primary entrance." "Bravo Team, report status," Sarah requested. "Perimeter is secure, Commander. Thermal imaging shows one heat signature inside the target building." Sarah felt her heart rate increase as the moment of confrontation approached. Elena Vasquez was inside that warehouse preparing for another impossible shot that would add to the ghost's legend. But tonight, the legendary sniper would discover that she had walked into a carefully orchestrated operation designed not to capture her, but to save her. The fake target was actually Agent Marcus Delacroix, a volunteer who had agreed to play the role of arms dealer in exchange for Elena's potential cooperation. Sarah's team had constructed an elaborate deception, complete with fake intelligence reports and staged communications, all designed to bring Elena to this location, where they could finally communicate with her directly. Elena peered through her scope at the building where her target was supposed to appear. The distance was nearly 1,800 meters, requiring calculations that would challenge even her exceptional abilities. Wind speed, temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure all had to be factored into a shot that would need to account for significant bullet drop over such a distance. But as Elena studied the target building, she began noticing details that triggered her suspicions. The security arrangements were too obvious. The guard positions too predictable for someone supposedly trafficking chemical weapons. A real arms dealer would have employed more sophisticated countermeasures against sniper attacks. Elena's tactical awareness, developed through years of survival in hostile territory, recognized the setup for what it was. This wasn't a legitimate mission. It was an elaborate trap designed to capture or eliminate the ghost. Her handlers had either been compromised or had deliberately led her into an ambush. The realization struck Elena like a physical blow. For 3 years, she had believed her missions were serving a greater good, eliminating dangerous criminals who threatened innocent people. But if this mission was fabricated, how many of her previous targets had been legitimate threats versus convenient obstacles for her handler's criminal activities? Elena's hands trembled slightly as she considered the implications. Had she been transformed from a protector into a weapon used by the very type of criminals she thought she was fighting? The possibility made her stomach turn as memories of her fallen teammates flashed through her mind. Commander Mitchell observed the warehouse through her binoculars, noting the subtle changes in the thermal signature that suggested Elena was moving inside the building. "All team, stand by. The target appears to be repositioning." Sarah's radio crackled with Agent Delacroix's voice from the fake target building. "Commander, should I proceed with the planned movement?" "Negative. Hold position until we know what the ghost is planning." Inside the warehouse, Elena made a decision that would change everything. Instead of taking the shot that had been arranged by her handlers, she would use this opportunity to send a message to whoever was hunting her. The ghost was done being a puppet in someone else's game. Elena carefully aimed her rifle, but not at the supposed arms dealer in the distant building. Instead, she targeted a specific window in a structure that her reconnaissance had identified as the command post for the operations surrounding her. The shot would be a demonstration of her capabilities and a clear message that she knew about the trap. The bullet left Elena's rifle with a crack that echoed across the industrial complex. The round traveled its impossible trajectory, through wind and darkness to strike exactly where Elena intended. The communications antenna on top of Sarah Mitchell's command vehicle. The destruction of their communications equipment sent Sarah's team into controlled chaos as backup systems activated and personnel scrambled to maintain operational coordination. But Sarah understood the message immediately. The ghost was announcing that she knew about the trap and possessed the skills to strike back at will. All teams, maintain positions, Sarah ordered through backup communications. The target is still in the warehouse, but she's aware of our presence. Elena packed her equipment quickly, knowing that her position was compromised, and enemy forces would be converging on the warehouse within minutes. But before leaving, she retrieved a small device from her gear and activated a pre-recorded message that would be transmitted on military frequencies. Sarah's radio crackled to life with Elena's voice, the first time anyone had heard the ghost speak directly. To whoever is listening, I know this was a trap. I also know that I've been used as a weapon by people I trusted. If you want to talk, come alone to the old cathedral downtown in 1 hour. No backup, no weapons, no tricks, just answers. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah with a choice that could determine whether Elena Vasquez remained the legendary ghost or returned to being a soldier seeking redemption. The cathedral mentioned in the message was a ruined building that had been damaged during regional conflicts years earlier. It would provide cover for Elena, while offering multiple escape routes if the meeting proved to be another deception. Colonel Morrison's voice came through the backup communication system. Mitchell, this could be another trap. The ghost has proven capable of eliminating targets under impossible circumstances. Sarah considered her options carefully. Elena's message suggested someone who was questioning her handlers and seeking truth about her missions. This might be the only opportunity to reach the woman behind the legend and convince her to abandon her life as a phantom sniper. Sir, I believe Elena Vasquez wants answers as much as we do. If we can show her evidence about who's really been controlling her missions, we might be able to turn her into an asset rather than a target. And if you're wrong, Commander? Sarah checked her sidearm and prepared for the most dangerous meeting of her military career. Then the ghost claims another victim, sir. But some risks are worth taking if they can save a soldier who's been lost in the shadows. Elena disappeared into the night as Sarah's team secured the abandoned warehouse. The ghost was moving toward a confrontation that would determine whether years of deception could be overcome by truth, and whether a legendary sniper could find her way back from the darkness that had consumed her life. The old cathedral stood like a broken monument against the Romanian night sky, its damaged spires reaching toward stars that offered no answers to the questions that had brought 2 soldiers to this moment. Commander Sarah Mitchell approached the ruined building alone, her footsteps echoing off cracked stone as she entered through gaps where stained glass windows had once filtered colored light. Elena Vasquez waited in the shadows near what had once been the altar, her silhouette barely visible in the moonlight streaming through the damaged roof. 3 years of living as a ghost had taught her to blend with darkness, but tonight she wanted to be found. The weight of truth was heavier than any rifle she had ever carried. "You came alone," Elena said, her voice carrying across the empty space with surprising warmth. That was either very brave or very stupid. Sarah stepped forward slowly, keeping her hands visible and her movements non-threatening. "Maybe both. But someone told me that the woman I'm looking for used to be a soldier who believed in doing the right thing, even when it was dangerous." Elena emerged from the shadows, and Sarah got her first clear look at the legendary ghost. The woman before her was smaller than expected, her frame compact and efficient rather than imposing, but her eyes held depths that spoke of experiences no soldier should endure, and her movements carried the fluid precision of someone who had learned to survive in impossible circumstances. Lieutenant Elena Vasquez died 3 years ago in Syria. Elena said quietly. What's left is something else entirely. Sarah reached into her jacket slowly, producing a tablet computer that contained the evidence her team had assembled. I think Elena Vasquez has been sleeping, not dead. And I think it's time she woke up and saw what's really been happening. The tablet displayed financial records, communication intercepts, and intelligence reports that painted a comprehensive picture of the criminal organization that had been manipulating Elena's missions. Names, dates, and money transfers showed how her handlers had used her genuine desire for justice to eliminate their business competitors. Elena studied the information with growing horror as the true scope of her manipulation became clear. Viktor Petrov, her first target, had indeed been an arms dealer, but his elimination had cleared the way for an even more dangerous organization to dominate the weapons trade. General Hassan had been removed not because he threatened innocent people, but because he refused to cooperate with his killer's expansion plans. Every target I eliminated made their operation stronger, Elena whispered, the realization cutting through her like a blade. I thought I was fighting monsters, but I was working for them. Sarah sat on a piece of broken stone, bringing herself to Elena's eye level. The people who recruited you are experts at psychological manipulation. They identified someone with exceptional skills and strong moral convictions, then created scenarios that would make you feel like a hero while serving their purposes. Elena's hands clenched into fists as anger and shame warred within her. My team died because of intelligence failures, and then I spent 3 years making those deaths meaningless by becoming a weapon for criminals. Your team died because someone betrayed Operation Silent Thunder, Sarah said gently. We've identified the source of that intelligence leak, and it wasn't random corruption. The same organization that's been controlling your missions arranged for your team to be ambushed. The tablet displayed classified documents showing how Elena's handlers had infiltrated military intelligence networks years before Operation Silent Thunder. They had identified Elena as a potential asset and orchestrated the mission failure that would leave her psychologically vulnerable to recruitment. They killed Mike, Sarah, and the others just to get to me? Elena's voice carried a mixture of rage and devastation that made Sarah's heart ache for the young lieutenant who had lost everything to criminal ambition. They saw your potential and were willing to sacrifice anyone to acquire your services. The betrayal of your team was planned from the beginning, designed to break your trust in official channels and make you dependent on their version of justice. Elena stood and walked to one of the cathedral's broken windows, staring out at the city lights that represented normal lives she could never reclaim. 3 years of impossible shots, and every one of them served the people who murdered my friends. Sarah joined Elena at the window, choosing her next words carefully. But knowing the truth gives you the power to choose a different path. The ghost can disappear, and Elena Vasquez can come back to help us stop the people who used her. You want me to become a double agent? I want you to become yourself again. Elena Vasquez was a soldier who protected innocent people. She can do that again, but this time with full knowledge of who the real enemies are. Elena turned to face Sarah directly for the first time. And what makes you think Elena Vasquez still exists after everything the ghost has done? Sarah met her gaze steadily. Because the ghost could have killed me a dozen times tonight, but chose to seek answers instead. Because Elena Vasquez is still in there, still fighting for what's right even when she thought she was alone. The silence stretched between them as Elena considered the possibility of redemption. The skills that had made her a legendary sniper could be used to dismantle the organization that had manipulated her. But it would require trusting people in uniform again after years of betrayal. If I help you, what happens to the ghost? Elena asked. The ghost becomes a ghost story that criminals tell to frighten each other. Elena Vasquez becomes someone who stopped one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. Elena made her decision with the same precision she had applied to impossible shots. I'll help you, but on my terms. No official reinstatement, no return to regular military service. I work as a consultant with complete operational independence. Sarah nodded, understanding that Elena needed to maintain control over her own destiny after years of manipulation. Agreed. What do you need to start dismantling their network? Access to their communication systems and the locations of their key operatives. The ghost knows how to make impossible shots, but Elena Vasquez knows how to plan military operations that will cut off the head of this organization. Over the following weeks, Elena provided intelligence that led to the arrest of 17 major figures in the criminal network that had controlled her missions. Her inside knowledge of their operations and security procedures allowed law enforcement agencies to coordinate simultaneous raids across 3 continents. The final operation targeted the facility where Elena's specialized ammunition had been manufactured. The raid revealed not just the custom rounds that had made the Ghost's impossible shots achievable, but also evidence of similar weapons being prepared for other snipers the organization planned to recruit. Elena participated in the raid personally, using her skills one final time to provide overwatch for the assault team. But instead of an impossible shot that eliminated a target, her rifle protected innocent agents as they dismantled the factory that had supplied the Ghost's legend. Commander Sarah Mitchell watched Elena pack her equipment after the successful operation, knowing that this partnership was ending. "What will you do now?" Elena shouldered her rifle case, but Sarah noticed it contained different equipment now, standard military specifications rather than the custom modifications that had defined the Ghost. There are other veterans who've been lost in the shadows, used by people who exploit their training and trauma. Maybe Elena Vasquez can help them find their way back. And the Ghost? Elena smiled for the first time since Sarah had known her, and the expression transformed her face completely. The Ghost served her purpose. She eliminated the people who needed to be stopped, even if it took longer than planned. Elena walked toward the cathedral door, then paused and looked back. "Sarah, thank you for believing that Elena Vasquez was still worth saving." After Elena disappeared into the night, Sarah reflected on the lesson learned from hunting the world's most dangerous sniper. Sometimes the people society labels as threats are actually victims who need rescue rather than elimination. Elena Vasquez had found her way back from the darkness, but her journey reminded Sarah that heroes and villains often shared the same tragic origins. The Ghost had indeed become a ghost story, but Elena Vasquez lived on as proof that redemption was possible even for those who had been lost in the shadows. Her legacy would be measured not in impossible shots, but in the lives saved by her decision to trust in truth over vengeance.